It's definitely a different team compared to the rest. We're so much close to each other and helpful and supportive.
I fell in love with the game watching men's football, but there's just something different when it's women.
It's that safe space for people of any kind of ability and gender, sexuality to play a welcoming environment.
I'm Nuno, I'm 30 years old. I was born in Portugal and I moved to the UK in 2004. I was 14 at the time. It was a bit difficult because my English wasn't great. I did struggle because I couldn't speak the language. It was a tough time. I was slightly bullied, but I did make some friends, Portuguese friends back in school, so it was a bit more welcoming on that aspect.
I'm Ryan McGavock, I'm 38 years old. Grew up in Glasgow and then moved down to Bristol back about nearly 20 years ago now. Moved to Cardiff about 10 years ago to study to be a physiotherapist and have stayed here ever since.
I'm Charlotte and I'm 27 years old. I'm from Surrey, came to Cardiff as a student. That was 2012, graduated 2015 and just never left.
Most of my time was spent in London and then I moved to Cardiff 3 years ago. It was a bit of a shock. I have to make new friends. I think it's a lot easier when you're a teenager to make new friends, but when it comes to when you're an adult, I don't feel that it's easy to make new friends. But that's actually when I joined in the Dragons, and that helped out a lot.
So we are Wales's only LGBT football team. Set up initially by a group of gay men who just didn't feel comfortable playing for kind of normal mainstream kind of straight teams. It was all set up initially just as a social group to meet up and watch football together, go to games, watch football in the pub. So that's really what we're here for initially.
It's just welcoming everyone regardless of your skill or ability or your gender or sexual orientation, really.
It's football for people who never fit in for football somewhere else.
I was never very good at football, but it was always fun for me. It always, what you do with your mates, going and playing football in the street or kicking it about in the garden. So I guess I stopped playing when I moved away to uni. What actually stopped me was in Glasgow, because you've got, aside from homophobia, you've just got all the bigotry with the kind of Protestant Catholic divide and all the overspill from the Troubles in Ireland. And just some of the vile stuff that happens there it's one thing being tribal and kind of hating your oppositions, but when you're bringing other aspects into it as well, other aspects of bigotry into it as well, I just didn't like it.
The school that I went to, like my secondary school, they didn't have a girls' team, so I started playing for clubs outside. It's weird looking back and seeing these opportunities that are being given to people and thinking, if that had been given to me 15 years ago, where could I be? Because I love the game and I think I do have a bit of a natural talent for it. It's kind of weird and maybe a bit of a regret, because it's like, maybe if I had just known what I know now and done it back then, maybe I could have gone a different route and maybe things could have turned out different. But at the same time, it makes me more passionate now about being able to provide a safe space, but also opportunities for girls who haven't had the chance to play football.
What we get quite often is players that have never felt comfortable playing football. They've never felt like, as a gay player, it's not for them, or maybe been put off playing and never really played football before. So I think as a coach it's really important to include those people and to help them develop their skills, but also know that we're quite happy having them at the club.
We've had queer, straight, out, not out, deaf, asylum seekers.
Players that have come to the club and not been open about their sexuality, and then maybe months or even years later they've felt ready to come out.
I wasn't even out when I came to the Dragons.
I think the main thing is the obviously homophobia is not tolerated. That does exist. I think that exists in varying degrees. I know from speaking to a lot of the players over the years who have played for Sunday League teams, and they've just never felt that they've been able to be open with their teammates about their sexuality.
It's hard. It's hard for players to come out. Our generation and the younger generation, I think they're a bit more liberal in that sense. Society itself, it's seeing LGBT people as normal people, which they are normal people.
What I would say is more and more in recent years, the clubs are at a high level starting to realise the need to address it.
And things like having the pride flag on people's arms, or having matches dedicated to football versus homophobia.
One thing we did with Cardiff City a few years back actually was during LGBT History Month, they kind of invited us into the grounds, invited us to walk around the stadium just before kick-off with a kind of football v homophobia flags. I was terrified of that because, you know, what football fans can be like. But as we were walking around, I just remember hearing a round of applause from everyone. And I was like, there must be like some kids team that's come on behind us or something that they're cheering. And no, right enough, they were cheering for us. So that was quite positive, and I don't think that would have happened even 10 years ago. I think things have changed in society quickly in that regard.
The last couple of years I got more into watching women's football, and I think that something that has surprised me is how much I love women's football as a supporter and not a player, because it's a much closer community, and I didn't even as well realise about the impact of feeling represented, because it's people that I see who look like me out there on the pitch.
And there's just a completely different atmosphere around that. A lot more of a family atmosphere, a lot more supporting. Yes, there's rivalry, but it's not the same hatred.
The concept of tribalism in women's football when you're a supporter is very different to men's football.
Because women's football has been so sidelined for years, I think there's kind of that mutual respect between women supporters of opposition.
Even if a team beats the team that I'm supporting, I don't really mind, because it's like, this is such a great advert for women's football. There's a team playing really good football.
So you don't get the same hatred, I don't think, and it's a bit nicer.
Actually, something that I've been thinking about doing is starting up an academy for both girls and older women as well. So I really want to do that, to make football like a sport that you'd see as many women go down the park as you see men, but also giving them the opportunity that I just never had.
Yeah, the social part is quite a big part of the club. So whether that's like going for a beer after the games or
like summer meetups and Christmas events as well.
And we do go out to the gay venues as well, but we do try and mix it up, try and get to watching football matches.
It's great fun going out with them. We want to meet new people, make new friends, and meet new teams. That's all we're all about. Want to play football and have fun. That's it.
Being at the Dragons has definitely enhanced my... I sound like such a knob. It made my life better.